What's going on, guys? So today's video is hopefully going to be kind of interesting, maybe a little funny, a little bit of satire here as well. But when I post videos, oftentimes on a product or on a vehicle or on an RV, I occasionally get some comments from folks saying, JD, you're wrong. This is what you should have said. You are mistaken, you are incorrect, you weren't accurate, you don't know what you're talking about, you should go and do more research, or obviously you don't have any clue about any of the things you discuss in your videos. And they leave these comments kind of pointing to certain things that they believe I'm absolutely wrong about. So I don't care if people correct me. I have no problem with that. I personally feel it's a growth opportunity, and it helps me look out for my content to make sure that I'm posting accurate information. So if somebody comes back and says you spelled this wrong, or you said the wrong part number, or you said the wrong thing, or factually you didn't know what you were talking about, I welcome that. It's only when people post comments believing that they are saying something that's there to correct me when they haven't even done the research. They haven't fact-checked what they've said. And that's where things can get kind of interesting. So I've been looking at some of the comments over the past couple of days, actually. It hasn't even really gone back that far. And I pulled a couple of them to reply to those folks who are, I guess, trying to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, yet aren't even fact-checking themselves before making these comments. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Even though I've already made multiple videos talking about this, I made a video dedicated to this, people still, for some reason, want to comment with misinformation. The fact is, on modern pickup trucks, the only pickup truck that you can get with a 3-inch receiver that accepts a 3-inch shank, 3 inches, right? Not 3 inches from here to here, but 3 inches is the Ford Super Duty. Now, the 250 can get it, the 350 can get it, and it's standard on the 450. But the reality is if you have a Chevy or a Ram, they have never offered a 3-inch receiver on any model of their pickup trucks. It's never been offered. It's never been a feature that you could pay extra for from the manufacturer. It's never been on the spec sheet. It is only offered by Ford. And this is such an easy one to go out and check. I mean, honestly, if you really still feel, after watching all those videos and still posting comments saying, I know for a fact that my truck or my son's truck or my nephew's truck has a 3-inch opening in the receiver and it's a Chevy or it's a Ram, go out and measure it, take a picture of that measurement and send it to me. For those of you who are going to say, I don't have to prove anything, you blah, 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 you don't have it. It's just not the case. You have to have a Super Duty with the correct spec in order to get the 3-inch opening. It's just a fact. You can argue it. You can say I'm not being accurate. You can post a comment saying I know for sure X, Y, and Z truck has a 3-inch receiver and it's a Chevy or a Ram or a GMC and it came from the factory that way. You'd be incorrect. You're guessing, I think. I don't know, but it's just a fact. If you have a GMC or a Ram truck and you really think that you have a 3-inch receiver because it came with 2 reducers, and you likely have a 2.5 to 2-inch reducer and a 2-inch reducer to a 1.5-inch reducer because it's not going to have a 3-inch opening. It's a fact. Go check, measure. It's super quick. And if you find out that you have a 3-inch receiver that was factory installed by the manufacturer on a Ram or a Dodge or a GMC or Chevrolet or Toyota or Nissan Titan pickup truck, take a picture of it, send it to me, and I will absolutely let everyone know that I was wrong. Another one related to my F450 is that the F450 and the F350 are the same truck up front, that the frame section is the same, and that is entirely not correct. The F450 pickup truck with a pickup truck bed shares the same front frame section as the chassis cab truck and the F600 series truck. The F350 shares the front frame section of a traditional F350 single rear wheel truck, or even the F250 because it only comes in a single rear wheel. But the F450 does have a different front frame section than your traditional F350 or F250, regardless of if the F350 is a dually configuration or not. This is one that I get quite a few folks that are oftentimes trying to tell me is incorrect and it's not true, but it is true. And again, the easiest way to tell is go to a dealership, park the two next to each other like I've done in the past and I've done in multiple videos, compare the two frames, and you'll see that most of the bolt holes don't even line up. They're not in the same place. The things are designed differently, and again, just because you don't want it to be or you don't want to admit that it is doesn't mean that I'm wrong. So just, again, easy enough for you to go to a dealership and see for yourself. And here's one that I've also featured in another video, and that's talking about these corner steps on the bumper on Ford trucks, where people say that they are exactly the same as what Chevy and GMC put on their trucks. So let's take a look at it. I've already made a video on this, by the way, and again, that's the whole reason why people make these comments, is because they watch these videos and they go that they can literally remove the step off of the back corner bumper of their GMC or Chevy and put it on the Ford or vice versa because they stole the exact design. Look at this. Let's jump over to the GMC. I don't know, that looks pretty dang different to me. The GMC actually has a much larger step. It's much deeper, and it sticks out a little further, and it has no drain hole on the inside. Whereas the Ford, even though it sticks out roughly the same, it's kind of tapered out, whereas this piece goes in a little bit more, so it overhangs a little bit. You have a drain hole, and it's much shallower. It doesn't go nearly as deep into the bumper as the GMC or Chevy does. Again, another thing that people say I'm wrong, but they don't actually go look for themselves to see if they're correct. Here's another one. Dual pane windows. Are they actually dual pane windows, or are they just two pieces of glass laminated together, kind of like you see in some of these newer vehicles, the front windows where they put two pieces of glass together? These are true dual pane windows. There's a space, an air gap in between them. I made an entire video talking about this, where yes, there are some RVs that simply have two panes of glass that are attached together, and I don't know if they call them dual pane windows. I don't think they do, but on our RV and many, many RVs that come with dual pane windows, whether it's from the factory or as an option, it is two panes of glass with about a 1/4 inch gap in between them and a seal that goes all the way around. And it is a true dual pane window. I made a full video on this, talking about it, showing it, and actually showing the difference in terms of heat transfer from the outside to the inside, as well as noise. And these are remarkably better in terms of insulating noise out, as well as heat, hot air, and cause the inside of your RV to heat up. But absolutely true, these are dual pane windows, regardless of people who comment and say that they're not. So again, it's a pretty easy thing to look at, especially on a video where I physically show you that it's two panes with an air gap in between them. And here's a recent one. So I posted a video talking about the brakes on our Brookstone, that we had problems with them, and I had to get the folks from Coachman to send someone down to actually fix them because they weren't set up properly. Well, there was actually a commenter who, I guess he felt the need to tell me that I didn't know what I was talking about and that I should have informed everybody that when the frame is delivered from Lippert to the RV manufacturer, that it comes with the running gear, the axles, the brakes, the suspension, and everything installed. So I replied back saying you may want to look into it a little further, because every RV factory I've ever toured, they bring the frames stacked in together. They take a frame off, they flip it upside down, or they raise it up, they mount the axles, they mount the suspension, and they hook up the brakes, whether it's electric trailer brakes or whether it's a disc brake system. It's all wired in after the frame has been brought in, and none of it comes on the frame from the factory. It's all added to the frame when everything is said and done. Now, I don't know if there's some manufacturer who's able to work with Lippert and spec in everything so they bring one frame in at a time and it has everything attached to it. But I sure as heck know that my Brookstone, the frame came in as a bare frame. They added the axles, they added the suspension, they added the brakes and everything to it. And the brakes were already probably mounted to the axles, but they had to run all the plumbing, the hydraulics, and everything at the Coachman factory. It was definitely not something that was pre-installed at a Lippert factory and then brought to Coachman. So again, I mean, if you leave comments and you want to point out where I'm wrong, it's fine. But you definitely want to fact check your own comment before you put it, because you're basically exposing yourself to an opportunity for people to tell you how wrong you are when you're trying to tell me how wrong I am. Just trying to point that out. Now, the last one, and this one actually came from a commenter who was being pretty polite. He thought I just made kind of a mistake in terms of terminology, but I talked about the fact that I have a GoPower lithium iron phosphate battery setup inside of the RV, and he had corrected me thinking I meant to say lithium ion, but it's not. So lithium ion is a battery chemistry, and that's what you would typically see maybe in your smartphone or a lot of different things, actually. Most things with replaceable batteries, small items, are going to have lithium ion batteries. A lot of EVs have lithium ion in them as well. But whenever you look at what most people are putting in RVs and in trailers, they're going with what looks like it says Life PO4, but this is a lithium iron phosphate battery. So it's lithium iron phosphate versus lithium ion. And again, I don't think he was being, rude or overly critiquing me, but he felt that I had made a error in terms of terminology with the batteries that we have in here. So lithium ion is, again, a lithium ion battery, whereas lithium iron phosphate is lithium iron phosphate. The big difference here is that lithium iron phosphate is a much safer chemistry and poses a much lower safety risk in terms of catching fire, overheating, or having other problems than lithium ion. That's why almost every aftermarket battery provider now makes lithium iron phosphate batteries versus lithium ion batteries. So I just wanted to add that little bit of clarification. Again, I don't think this last person was trying to be rude or anything. He was basically just not understanding the terminology. That said, if there's any other errors I make, point them out. I appreciate the comments. I'm just a normal dude. I'm a normal guy. I'm not expecting to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm human. I'm imperfect. So I do make mistakes and I say the wrong things. But if you're going to fact check me and call me out in a video in the comment section, just please do your research so you know if you're calling me out, you're at least calling me out about something I was genuinely wrong on, and you're not just making some type of, assumption that is possibly inaccurate because you didn't fact check yourself. So just keep that in mind. I'm not, again, trying to throw anybody under the bus here, but understand that I know that I make mistakes. I make them all the time. I make grammatical mistakes. I make spelling mistakes in titles. I put 2 intros in videos sometimes. I do all sorts of crazy things when I'm trying to get content out to you all every single day. And I am not, nor ever will I say I am perfect or anywhere near perfect. I am a flawed human being just like everybody else. When you call me out if I'm making a genuine mistake. But just, again, please be respectful, polite, and understanding that if you are calling me out, at least fact check the thing you're calling me out on. That's the main thing. And, in fact checking how wide your receiver is on a vehicle without just posting a comment saying, I know for a fact the factory receiver that came on my 2021 Chevy 3500 dually pickup truck is a 3-inch receiver because it came with 2 reducers. If you haven't gone out there and physically measured the opening to see that it's actually 3 inches, you're probably mistaken, unless you're measuring the outside diameter, which is probably 3 inches because it's 1/4 inch thick steel. So if it's 3 inches, then you're going to have a 2.5-inch opening. So that all just kind of makes sense. That said, though, the opening itself that accepts the shank is not going to be 3 inches. And that's the one that I really want to point out because people still argue that point, even though I said, go out and measure it. Go out and measure it. You have to measure it if you really think it is, and it's not a Super Duty specifically equipped with a 3-inch receiver. Anyways, enough of that. Just wanted to point out the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, keep calling me out. Keep letting me know when I'm making mistakes. I rely on you all sometimes because I don't catch them myself. Anyways, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again very soon.